Yeah. That the red bag? Yeah.
How you doing? Good? How you doing?
Every day is Mother's Day.
Paradise.
So you know that.
Oh, I'm now doing the meetings of the trustees too.
I couldn't eat my dinner tonight without talking about the trustees. One of them is, wanted me to try to negotiate a deal to get more land from industrial, you know, next door, so they can oh yeah, that's what they're gonna do, is give up. Man,
Yeah.
I don't think so, but try. Maybe we could dig into their basement.
How are you?
So, trying to make a good example. What? Taking everybody, the family, to move up. Even if you have a hint, you know,
Yeah.
it's really. Open up that gate road. Everybody can't go and they all get to go. I'll be really.
We're going to start this workshop with Matt. How we're going to do it tonight is a presentation. Heather will make a presentation. If there's any questions, we're going to start with questions or comments from the board. And then after that, we'll go to the general public. We're going to keep the comments limited to 3 minutes, just for the reason of time. There will be another workshop in January. Thank you. Heather?
Thanks so much for coming, everybody. Can you hear me? Awesome. Hopefully everybody can see now. We made the screen a little bit bigger, but there are still comments on the back table. So if you haven't grabbed one of those, raise your hand and we'll make sure you get one. Also, comments you can have on the back table. And the way this is set up, you can actually follow along and fill out the comment sheet as we go. I'll have there's a section, first question on the comment sheet has all the different draft ideas that will be presented tonight, and there's letter. So as we go through, you'll see the matching letters on each of the ideas that will be presented, and you can let us know what you think about it as we go. And then helpful for us in terms of deciding which recommendations to move forward into the plan and which get started. So I think most of you have seen the goals and objectives of this before. We really drew this out of the comp plan that the town recently approved. So we're really looking for this to improve the multimodal connections within the community, improve health and livability for transportation improvements, reduce some of the illegal truck traffic in the area, as well as improve safety and address some of the flooding issues. gateways to the important city as well as look at parking. So we are midway through the process. Those who attended the September public workshop saw some initial ideas. Since the September workshop, we refine those ideas and we'll be showing you those new thoughts that we've come up with. For your feedback on that today. From there, we will take tonight's feedback, further refine the recommendations, and we'll come back to you later this winter with some final recommendations for your thoughts. So we really relied a lot on public outreach throughout the whole process. This is our first in-person local workshop. So thank you for having such a great turnout. Make everybody zoomed out. We're in Battery Park over the summer. Yeah, one of the summer concerts, which was a lot of fun. And we've been working with an advisory committee of members of the community as well. What we heard at our first public workshop in February was a lot of concerns about the intersections. A lot of them have traffic congestion, as you know, encourage cut-through traffic in the community, and are challenging for people walking and biking. So we heard concerns about congestion, truck traffic cutting through the community, and flooding on the roads, as well as the desire for better beautification of parts of the community. At the summer workshop, Battery Park, we heard a lot of the same things: congestion, cut-through traffic, sidewalk condition, speeding of traffic. So a lot of the same themes have been emerging throughout our work here. At the September workshop, we presented some initial recommendations, and I'll be going through these today, what we heard at the September workshop and what we heard from our advisory committee. So one of the things we've heard is concerned with speed and traffic. One of the ideas for that is to reduce the speed limits for a lot of the community streets, particularly those local, really residential streets. We're suggesting decreasing the speed on those, the one shown in yellow, to 50 miles an hour. And this is really much more compatible for a walkable environment, and it'll really only mean tiny bit of time average people stress. But it will greatly enhance the livability and comfort of the community streets. This well supported 60%, 7% of the workshop process was a good idea. We've heard concerns about traffic along 273, and particularly the dreaded Harris Corner intersection. Harris Corner, we did not really address directly through this study, but the good news is Delta is going to be doing a feasibility study and looking at recommendations for that area. It has emerged with the safety program, and so we'll be kind of passing along, we're suggesting passing along in our report the recommendations of safety continue to be looked at for that area. And so good news is Delaware started that. 273 itself, we heard the suggestion that maybe it should be widened. And we looked at the traffic volumes there, and it really doesn't have enough traffic to justify widening the road itself. You know, we think the problem is the intersection. We fix the intersection, traffic on 73 will slow better. So where we are putting a lot of emphasis is some of those other major intersections throughout the town. Look at for each of these individually. 273, 141. This was recently, several years ago, approved. However, it's still a very auto-oriented area. It does experience some congestion still. And it's challenging for people who are trying to walk and bike through the area. So there's a picture of what it looks like now. It's a big wide open area. And there's still some concerns with safety at that location. At the public workshop, we presented two ideas. These are very lukewarm support. Neither one of them really had a majority saying they liked the idea. So what we presented in the workshop was one option that kind of kept it the way it was now, with improvements with additional multi-use trails through the area, as well as crosswalk improvements. Another version of this had signal control of right turns. Both these options took the five-legged intersection and cul-de-sac 14th Street, which we had hoped would make the congestion issue better there. We took another look at that, and it really didn't help the travel times for that intersection that much doing that. So we went back to the drawing board and are suggesting keeping 14th Street open, so keeping all five legs of the intersection. And we've vastly improved the crosswalks through the area, separating out the bike crossings from pedestrian crossings to make the trail and parallel to 73 a much more pleasant experience. There's also new pathway here shown connecting up towards the high school as well as down Washington Street. The next intersection is going to cut off at Delaware Street. I think it's a project protocol gateway to the community to the historic district. As you know, it's kind of a weird situation where you kind of go straight and you wind up in the historic district, whether you tend to be there or not, adding to some of the confusion with trucks winding up in the town, in the center of town. It's also really challenging. A lot of people are walking over to where the Walgreens are, most of the areas. The Walgreens and the shops. It's just a weird crossing. It's hard to reach the pedestrian button. It's just kind of a weird place to cross. So we've shown two ideas here. One is adding multi-use pathway through the area, as well as a little bit of crosswalk improvements. The other is actually creating a new gateway to the area, taking that little straight road that heads from Prairie Cutoff onto Delaware Street, and forcing people to come to a gateway area where you're actually turning, so that it becomes more of a destination, more obvious that you are leaving the main road Prairie Cutoff and heading into the historic center. The concept too with that gateway addition was well favored at the public workshop. The next intersection, Prairie Cutoff at 6th Street and Chestnut, is another situation where the geometry of the road sends you straight into the historic district, whether you intend to be there or not. People wind up getting lost there, trucks get lost there. You have to physically time, which is a weird situation. And of course, the people coming from the northeast side of town, there's no pedestrian connection in this area to get you from your community towards the historic center. So one idea we presented is to actually separate out the roads. People in this scenario would come down and then turn on the Harmony Street to get into town, historic center of town. Another option we presented is called the Dutch left. It's like a really smooth line for people who are traveling straight on Route 1, so that it becomes obvious for free traffic to stay on that route. If you're turning to get into the historic district from Route 9, you actually have to come to a little island that can be nice landscape area that can be help with some of the stormwater management for the area and address the flooding. And you would kind of do a little U-turn around this new island that would be created. So again, it creates much more of a gateway to the historic area from that end of the community. So we presented both these options at the public workshop, and you can see 54% favored concept 2, the Dutch left, and 14% supported both. So it's a strong preference, strong public support at the workshop for that Dutch left concept. 7th Street and Washington Street, another familiar theme where the geometry of the road sends you off the state road and down straight onto 7th Street, where again trucks are winding up on roads, so we don't want that. Yep, so we want to make it abundantly clear to that through traffic to stay on Route 9. And so 2 ways we're suggesting to do that is one, just put a ton of sign out there, make it obvious where you want to go to get to 95, and this is where you should be turning. Another is actually to make some minor changes to the geometry of the road using striping and islands and full bump outs to really smooth that turn to make it obvious for people to make the turn if you're staying in the main road. And of course, with this, you'd still be able to access 7th Street from the south, but it just becomes more of a natural thing for the through traffic to stay on, turn on the Washington Street. Another idea we presented at the workshop was expanding the bicycle and pedestrian network. There are some notable gaps, certainly the gap between the Markel Trail and Battery Park. But there are other gaps as well, particularly connecting up to the northeast side of the town, down to Dobbinsville, through Washington Street, heading up towards the farmers market and high school. So we've suggested expanding some of that network, mostly with multi-use path, which would be shared by bicycles and pedestrians, similar to what you have on the Markel Trail and Battery Park Trail. Some of it would be elevated bikeways, such as Washington Street, where you've got a little bit of room to separate out the bicycles from the pedestrians. I'll go through a couple because, but this idea had a lot of support. 93% supported expanding that network. And then zooming out a little bit to see the entire town. This feeds into some of the recent plans that were adopted within the county for further north of here along the 49 corridor. We're expanding pathways there, as well as tying into some of the East Coast Freeway routes. I'll be talking later tonight about the U.S. Bicycle Route System. This will be part of the national U.S. Bicycle Route Network, as well as the East Coast Freeway, which we're already linked to there. One important connection, again, the gap between the Markel Trail and Battery Park. And of course, we really wanted to look for ways that we could keep the on-street parking and keep it a two-way street, but make a trail connection between those really regionally significant facilities. And of course, Battery Park is a great destination with plans to improve the trails within Battery Park as well. So what we suggested is a narrow multi-use pathway, slightly narrowing the travel lanes for traffic, keeping the on-street parking, and it points pathway narrows down to 9 feet, which is less than ideal, but we think it's a worthy compromise in order to keep the on-street parking there. And so you can see how that would connect into Battery Park by the tennis courts. Cherry Street is another example of a bike ped suggestion that we have. This is a nice little connector street that really functions like an alley. But we've noticed that people are parking on the sidewalks for part of it because they're kind of at grade level. And so we're simply suggesting having a more formalized sidewalk through that area. Parking has been one of the challenging things for us to come up with suggestions for. At the workshop, we suggested expanding the existing parking lot at 2nd Street and Chestnut. And this also had very lukewarm support. And a number of people followed up with me after the workshop and said that was a crazy idea. I got some bait out. So again, we went back to the drawing board. We think the area actually by 3rd and 4th Street and Chestnut Street might be worth looking into for parking. I understand there's already a little bit of parking here. There's some discussions within town, put some charging stations out in that area. There's also some concerns that this might be a little bit too far a walk for people. However, it's actually only a 5-minute walk from here to Delaware Street. And so we think with streetscape and beautification and kind of visual wayfinding to guide people like breadcrumbs from the new parking area into the historic center, this could be a really appealing spot to continue parking. And flooding, surprisingly, 18% of the people at the workshop were unsure about flooding, but that might have been because we weren't terribly specific about what we were suggesting. But flooding, we know, is very important, particularly on Route 9 towards the south end of town, particularly for Dobbinsville and south, as well as very cut off by Chestnut Street. The good news is there is a project that's funded for construction for Route 9 south of Dobbinsville, and that'll go to construction hopefully in FY 2028. I know it's been a long wait for people who are tracking the project, but we're hoping that DelDOT will keep that kind of on this current schedule.
What was that date?
FY 2028. So I certainly hope that they keep that as well. I know it's a great need to have a safe, secure, and dry connection between here and Delaware City, particularly with all the truck traffic through the area. Gateway location also received strong support at the public workshop. We suggested some areas that would benefit from improved wayfinding, beautification, and visual cues to kind of have a more connected appearance to the community throughout the entire town. So to expand some of the look and feel of the historic district out from there to some of the newer neighborhoods and communities, so that it becomes a little bit more connected. And so kind of looking at a matrix of what all the suggestions are, they're all trying to accomplish a lot of different things, which is what we want. So everything is kind of focusing on traffic, on pedestrian connections, safety, and trying to do a lot with few projects. And so here we are tonight. We'll be back again later this winter, as I said. We're going to take your feedback from tonight and polish these up some more, and then come back with additional recommendations and improve and narrow down recommendations. And with that, I will take questions first from the council, and then from all of you. I'm sorry, I have my back to you guys.
That's just like, it'll be the council, then the panel that was for me, then the general public.
Okay, wonderful.
Any questions from the council, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, one issue, the 273 wide route, I know you folks generated some numbers and showed them to us, and I'm not sure, you know, I had a good handle on that, but this is a 10-year plan. We need to look at 273 in the future rather than today. And it seems like, you know, each year that gets worse and worse. We can hope that there is a transformation in Harris Corner intersection, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. And often the traffic is backed up all the way along, even today. I'm glad to see on South Street that we are accommodating parking. That's a tight squeeze through there, but I wouldn't want to see anybody along South Street lose their parking. The Dutch left a very creative solution, and I think there's still some engineering and study that needs to be done on that. But you know, I commend you for coming up with that creative solution. It's a bad intersection. I go through it on several times every day since I live on Chestnut Street. Let's see. Parking, I'm glad that the Fort Casimir parking lot has been abandoned. I think that's it for right now. I'm also on the panel, so maybe I'll have more.
Great. Actually, you brought up two things I probably should have mentioned. One is what happens after the plan is finished, so implementation and monitoring. Implementation, kind of the next step for these are things this doesn't guarantee a project gets implemented, so it needs to get put into the regional transportation plan and prioritized.
Sure.
Being a part of a approved community plan like this helps it in a prioritization process. And then monitoring is always an important thing. So things like the traffic on 273, right now it's honestly not even close to what DelDOT would expect to see before they would start talking widening. However, the monitoring component is really critical, because if that changes, if we start seeing it edging up in the future where it comes kind of close, so we can see, oh, in a few years there's been enough development here that maybe we should be talking widening, we can revisit that recommendation at that time.
It would be helpful to see that number. Where is the number where it becomes all we're seeing now? Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah,
That's
and,
helpful.
you know, the highest numbers we have were like 18,000.
Okay, in 10 years?
No, current.
No,
Okay,
saying,
so,
what happens in 10 years?
so, one of the things we brought up was that our assumptions are that improvements at that 273-13 intersection are going to siphon off significant amounts of traffic. So while traffic will increase in the future, the improvements at 273 will take that traffic, at 13 will take a lot of that traffic. So we still anticipate those numbers being well below thresholds that would require for a
Okay. Thank you.
day.
Sandra, any questions?
Yes, I had an email from someone who has lived for 30 years on 9th Street, just off Delaware, so right there in the middle of all that. And she says the traffic's the worst she's ever seen. And one question she asked is, could we designate that section as for trucks, local deliveries only? And if you're directing the trucks coming up with 9 and changing that into Washington Street as 7th Street to not send them through town, but direct them out Washington Street, that might help ease the traffic from Washington Street into town. And if that's done, designate 273 from Washington Street on in as local deliveries only for trucks.
We can revisit that with Delta. They've passed and kind of hesitant to designate truck streets as restricted for trucks. Certainly something we could look
I know
into.
some of them need to go to stay on Route 9, and so that becomes an issue.
And then
Yeah.
Delta will might have to look at the functional classification. So, right now it's looked at as an arterial, but if it's downgraded to a collector, that might have to be done in order to prohibit through truck use on it. So that's something we'd have to, if that became something we'd want to pursue, we'd have to work with Delta to see if they were supportive of something like that.
And we'll start that process actually fairly soon to look at functional classification. Because that's done following the census usually by us.
Well, my thing is, I'm glad to see the parking lot is done. I was like, what? The Dutch left, and that actually looking at the several pictures that are here, because I go in and out of town that way every morning to work. I'm a little confused on actually how that works. So it would be interesting to, put something on the table that you can have little cars that, move through, so you see how they turn right, turn left, or move through wherever.
It's
So I'm
almost
like,
like a median where you have to U-turn at a median. It's just a little wider than a typical median, so instead of having to do a really sharp U-turn to make the turn, it's a more smooth.
well, I think it would be nice at the future, because I know these plans are not like going to happen next year. We'll have to see how that actually works. Like, what do we call those, tabletop exercise? To see how it actually
We
works.
certainly do something like that. They do function very intuitively. That was like a big thing when we were looking at this whole, the whole community, that we want the vehicles to intuitively, because you're not familiar with the area, you get a lot of that. Intuitively know where to go if they want to at a destination, or they're just really trying to get to that. So that was the case. It looks confusing because we're not used to seeing that type of design. But I think once we do, kind of that tabletop exercise you're talking about, it is very intuitive.
Right, yeah, it's just seeing, as we've already discovered, seeing some things on paper do not always equate to what it actually, how it actually works or looks like. when it's there. So that's just something that I want to really check out. I do like the, when we're looking at the major gateway, and I don't know what slide this is, but where the major gateway is changed over, so you have a little sign up island in the middle of the street. So I think that's really good, and it seems like the other people thought that as well. So I don't really have a lot else in here, like the parking was a concern. The 18,000 on 273, I don't know about everybody else in this room, but I try to avoid going 273 anywhere to the farmer's market or anywhere, because you're always, if it's not getting caught up this way, you're getting caught up coming back into town. So I find it surprising that it says it's only 18,000 when the traffic is just backed up in either way.
And the 18,000 is the high further west, further towards the intersection.
Right, but it's so like, how much more backed up does it need to be?
Yeah.
To be of a concern when it's already, I see a lot of people out here going like this, whether you're coming down 140 Basin Road, 141, or you're just going 273 to try to go to the farmer's market or Staples or Home Depot or wherever. It's just like, it's literally from my house to the farmer's market, it's a little bit over a mile. I can count on easily 20. So unless I leave at 6 a.m. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially with the traffic lights. So we
the time.
can look at
Yeah.
signal- we can look at signal time.
So it's just, I'm like, wow, only 18 minutes.
And then ultimately, Delaware would like to grade separate their corner, which for all sorts of reasons, particularly the airport,
Let's not talk about Delaware.
That would help if they can figure out a solution. Thank you.
The only comment I have is that I like the comments or the concepts for 6th Street, Chestnut Street, but I just want to make sure that so any of the proposals would make it probably a little bit more time consuming to get in town, and I don't want that to have a negative consequence on 3rd Street. So we really don't need any more traffic when it's 3rd, just because of the width of the roadway and everything. So I wouldn't, just to make a point, we want to make sure that what we're making improvements to here doesn't negatively affect another part of town or another intersection.
That's a good point. We were really focusing on people kind of accidentally winding up in town where 3rd Street is not quite as much of a problem. But I know there is still cut through traffic for people who know their way around. Still realize you can kind of scoot down 3rd Street and sometimes take a little bit of time.
Right.
Route 9 is backed up.
That part. Just put the problem down the line.
Thank you.
Great.
Any members of the committee like to make comments?
I'll take my second play as the apple now. I was pleased to see you were suggesting lowering speed limit to 30 miles per hour coming through on Prairie Tunnel. And I would be happy at 25, but traffic going from Delaware City. And everybody seems to be able to do that. Parking, the Veterans Triangle area, our visitors track older. And, and our sidewalks bumpy. So 5 minutes is nowhere near realistic. 3rd Street, I mean, that is a big issue because if there's a backup on 13 or a backup on 95 or both, all the traffic comes through 3rd Street. That was,
all.
well, not all.
Well, so it's everywhere. I mean, once 95 shut down, it's everywhere. I mean,
6th Street, I kid you not, you can be, my wife coming from the south, took 45 minutes to go a mile.
Well,
I pulled out I went on to Newcastle and came down from there to my house, which is 7 houses, what is that? And it took me 25 minutes.
I guess my concern about 3rd Street is it's a very narrow street And seems like everybody on that street puts their side view mirrors in.
We have to. We have 216.
So anyway, and that was really never addressed. It's not people getting lost in Newcastle. It's people cutting through Newcastle. We don't have that many poor misguided people, finding their way into a town. We have people cutting through it.
Potentially some of those concepts could prevent that, whether it's purposeful or not, right? People could prevent that through movement on Thursday. With the concept of separated roads and such, correct? Let me get through that from that direction. Correct.
That traffic would
Yeah.
stop sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Continues to like straight.
They're
through.
still finding a way to cut through much left. They're not necessarily going up on Ferry Tunnel. They're trying to find a way to.
It starts backing up, that stop sign,
Start
it would start flowing around even.
I don't really think if 95 shuts down, all collateral roads in the county are backed up, and I'm not sure there's anything that can be done with that. I know that 95, I'm a paramedic, Joe here is a firefighter. I know that for the safety of the people on the scene, and I'm very grateful that our state police, if anyone in here is retired or otherwise, they shut down the roads. Not just to investigate what went on, but for the safety of everyone there, and I'm very happy for that. But unfortunately, it has that collateral backup. What was it, two and a half weeks ago, we had 2 or 3 accidents over like 7 days, and 95 kept getting closed down, and it just jammed everyone. It didn't matter what direction you were going, it just jammed everyone, so. I don't know that there's a solution for that, really, other than to not close the roads down, but that just is a safety issue.
Anybody else from the panel would like to make comment? Pauline? Okay. We'll open up to the public. You can come up to the podium, identify yourself, name, address, like you have 3 minutes, but if you can keep it shorter, it'd be great. We have a lot of comments and it's pretty limited time to get through.
Hi folks, my name is Randy Snyder, East Third Street. Been down about 8 years. In those 8 years, I've had my vehicle sit 5 times on East Third Street. My old truck, I didn't care, it's an old beat up truck. My wife's car, nice car. Now my new truck, it's a nice truck. Got 5 times. So that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. The main thing I'm really worried about is a confrontation. I talked to you the other night about that. Because I've seen neighbors, I've done it myself, can probably continue to do it. I will holler at people. I will step out in front of cars going 40 miles an hour. I will do it. And I'm going to keep doing it. And if it comes up as a confrontation, I'm not going to back down. So something's going to happen. It's not a good thing. What they do is they come off Wilmington Road and then they come in and turn left on Chestnut and then down 3rd Street. They do it all the time and they're flying. Everybody wants to get home. And my recommendation, I have a couple. I did talk to Valerie about a year ago about some speed bumps. I know half the people won, half the people don't. I have access to a couple hundred speed bumps, temporary speed bumps that could go in just to try them, to see if they work, see if they don't work, see if people hate them, people don't like them. There is a thing in Lancaster City called speed tables where they come up and they have a little table and they go down. That seems to work. That seems to help that neighborhood in Lancaster. I've talked to a couple neighbors. One thing they talk about is enforcing speed limits. Sitting at Harmony Street stop sign is not enforcing speed limits. I know our police force from behind 100%. But sitting in a stop sign is not catching speed. When did you do the traffic survey on 273 and how was it done? Because I know on Friday it's pretty tough, which Mr. Smith had said, which I appreciate. Thank you. And then when you talked about the beautification of the town, I do notice that you have some really beautiful lighting in the Delaware Street, a couple other streets, Strand. To continue that lighting down on other streets would, well, I think would connect the town a little bit more. I think that's something else I was thinking of. And people know they are cutting through, but it's not by accident. And I'm pretty sure you say you're doing a great job. I don't mean it that way. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Disrespect, but it's not people getting lost. Is that my comment? Okay, thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. I love the idea of the temporary speed bumps. I love.
I can get them, just tell me I'll have 3 more.
I love anytime you can mock up suggestions, particularly traffic calming, because, sometimes traffic calming is really not a precise engineering field. It's kind of hit or miss, and so if you can mock something up and see how it performs, whether to go back to the drawing board before you're investing money to actually build something. So it's a great way to go. Speed tables are much more gentle, gradual, less noisy form of speed bumps. I never am a big fan of speed bumps because they tend to be noisy, or vehicles go really fast up to it and then kind of come to a screeching halt. But we can look at traffic calming in that corridor.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
We got a lot of people to get through tonight.
One more quick thing.
Mr. Snyder,
If we
please.
just change the direction of Third Street, opposite direction.
That would be a city council move. That would be a Delta move. That would be a city council move.
Okay, I'll wait on that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Like I said, we got a lot of people to get through. We got a council meeting starting at 7. So
I'm James Wilson. I've lived on 4th Street since 2005, and I've seen this cut through traffic that entire time. And I've seen, letters to the weekly, your neighbors. I mean, just the constant feed since I've lived here the last 60 years. And there are a lot of good ideas in this plan, but the two that I hope that really get a lot of support are the Washington Street sweep and the Dutch left. I mean, people have been complaining about cut-through traffic for as long as I've lived here, and we're finally getting an actual solution to, to suppress some of that. It really is. It's not even getting lost. It really is. But I think, it's the 2 lights on 9, right? I mean, they don't want to stop at those 2 lights on 9, and they just come right through Newcastle. And those 2 really subtle and elegant redesigns of those 2 intersections are my favorite part of the plan.
thank you.
So, and I was on East 6th Street, and I have some questions, actually. That Dutch left, there's a bus route. We've always heard that the fire and ambulance vehicles, that's their way out of town. I want to know how that impacts them, which of course is no advantage to me, because it would be wonderful if I didn't have to watch those trucks go by me. But the other issue is, does this in any way inhibit semi-trucks from coming from the Wilmington direction and coming down 6th Street? So those are my 3 questions. How does it impact the bus route, the fire and ambulance vehicles, and the trucks?
What is designed as all this, it's designed that trucks can still physically make the turns as well as emergency equipment. That's kind of a requirement. I think we allow design things so that it's physically possible to make some turns. Dart buses would have the option of either using the Dutch left, I believe they could do the maneuver, or they could relocate a couple of stops and come down Harmony Street and make the turn there to continue on the way.
Yeah.
They have their options.
And you think that the bus route would be willing to change their?
Yeah, they're part of our team. We're actually working with, in addition to the city, Delaware and our state.
Okay.
And they want to see what makes the town happy, basically, and then they can accommodate that.
In support of this gentleman, I have to tell you that the times that I have been walking on
Chestnut Street, like coming from the river toward my house. On days when cars are cutting through there, you can't even get across the street because they will not stop for you. If you walk out into the street and they think they have the right of way, they'll just honk and go right by you. That traffic is terrible. And I think other people have experienced that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Actually lined up. Mr. Alfred.
my name is Mike Alfred. I'm the board secretary for the trustees of Newcastle Commons. And with all due respect to whoever's counting cars on 273, that you could have 100 cars, but I'm telling you, we are remodeling the Penn Farm. And I'm telling you, our staff are already worried that it may take them a half hour one way or the other to get to the farm. And I'll bet if I ask everybody in this room, any day that they try to get to the farmer's market, it's at least a 20-minute drive. So whoever's counting the cars, I don't know when they're counting. So when I go out there, between the Amazon trucks coming out of that center point, between all the deliveries coming out of center point, with all the traffic at farmer's market going in and out and coming, DelDOT, they need to wake up to the people of Newcastle, with all due respect. I don't care about how many cars are out there, but any given day, that they would sit at either the farmer's market or at Basin Road, that thing is backed up. Now, let me add to that traffic problems, and then let me add to that, let William Penn School out, and you better not go out to 273 between what, 2 and 4 o'clock. Because you're not gonna get there. You can't get there. You know, and it kills me. They keep telling us, we citizens, even before we decided to manage the Penn Farm and remodel it, that, oh, no, there's no traffic problem. You know, it's no big deal. With all due respect, ma'am, DelDOT doesn't know what the hell we're talking about. Thank you.
I will say, I know things traffic kind of died down during the pandemic and now it's kind of picked back.
Traffic has never died down, excuse my language. It's that way every day. And whoever the hell is counting the cars, they must have missed some.
I was gonna add, we didn't do traffic counts yet last year because of the pandemic. We actually just did them in October. So I'm waiting for the
Well,
data to come.
Again, I'm really, I'm anti-DelDOT because of Route 9. I don't, you know, Senator O'Connor was a senator and tried to get Route 9 fixed. That's 20 years ago, and DelDOT keeps telling us, oh, it's on the schedule. You people in Newcastle, it's on the schedule. We'll do it. They've never done it. Now we're here at 273. Oh, we'll put it on the schedule. Well, we don't think it needs to be widened. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Dorothy Fisk and I live at 26 3rd Street. And I want to say that I think the concept of putting parking at 3rd and 4th Street, where we used to have the recycling years ago, is really a splendid idea, and I don't know why it hasn't been more talked about lately. I just talk that it's too far to walk, frankly. It's 2 blocks from Delaware Street. And people who come to Newcastle to see the houses and see the historic area of the walk, and to go to any other supposedly historic town, they don't have to walk a lot farther. So I think that would also be a very good way to improve one of the entrances to Newcastle. So, anyway, thank you for having that.
just remember too, folks, why we're waiting for that person to make comments. You can write out your comments and just leave them on the back table. And they will take them with you and they will be included in the study. That's happened at quite a other workshops that they've had.
My email and phone number and everything are on your handout, so feel free. If you don't get to your comment or question tonight, feel free to reach out.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Victor Price, at 604 Clark Street in Delaware. All I want to do here tonight is give my opinion on what I heard here tonight. Most of the things I heard here tonight are really only going to beautify our town. It's not going to help in any way at all as far as moving traffic faster or slower unless you do the 273. 273 is the key to our whole situation. If the 273 is left out, a lot of this is a waste of time. Furthermore, I would like to see you guys introduce a plan to develop the right thing to do that would help every intersection in town. It would even help the intersection down on the highway. I would like to see you do a study on building a road that would run 20 foot above our railroad tracks from the city barn where our city workers are, all the way to 13 and 40 split. The only obstacle you have is the one house on 8th Street. That road could off ramp right past the power plant in Daltonville and tie into Route 9. But the road that comes up Route 9 would continue through Newcastle like it always does. There would be a ramp that would take the place of that parking lot where they want to put a fishing pier that would loop around and cross over Route 9 just this side of the new development. The ramp coming up Route 9 that would loop over top of the Route 9 right at the new development would be one way. But after you got across Route 9, it would be two way because the ramp coming from that Wilmington Road to Daltonville would off ramp right in front, right by the new development with no hassle with the traffic going either way. It could be backfilled from Route 9 around the toll route to Route 9 or back over to Route 9 where it's going to start at on that sharp turn. It could be backfilled from Route 9 to the railroad track at the height that you need. All you would have to build is an approachment to put that road on top of our railroad tracks. And it's one straight run right to the trolley barn. Do the proper research. This is the future road through Newcastle. It's the only road through Newcastle. There's no other way. I've already studied it. I've seen it in multiple places across the country playing baseball. I've seen a train go across the river with a road on top of it with cars going across the same river. This is an ideal that I believe the state is truthfully study and put some time into. It's the future road. If you go down by Pockets at 13 and 40 split, all your open space is already there for your off and on ramps. If you go to Washington Street in Newcastle here, you can go straight down to the railroad bridge at 13 and 40 split. You're talking pillars and a pretty flat road. Please research it. Thank you.
I'm Johnson, and I live on East 6th Street, and I wanted to know if someone could elaborate a little bit more about the existing Cherry Street plans. Because right now, traffic goes the wrong way on that one-way street. And I talked to people, I asked them, they said the GPS is sending them that way, including the prime delivery stuff. So I don't understand. The reason we park on the sidewalk is because there's not enough room for emergency vehicles to get by. I could park on the street, but then an ambulance or a fire truck won't be able to get by. So could you elaborate a little bit more about that?
That actually happened a few years ago when they put people, giving people stickers.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it's a situation that might just benefit from a little bit more signage to make it clear what direction that.
Signage doesn't work. They're looking at their GPSs. I talked to the fine people. They've shown me on their GPSs that it's telling them to go straight. So that's where when, the gentleman said something about the Dutch turn, left turn or whatever, is intuitive. It's not intuitive when people are listening to the GPS. And that's, I mean, the GPS is taking the people wherever. Trucks, we were walking here today, and there's a prime truck right on 6th Street. And they tell me it's because the GPS is sending them that way. They don't look at signs.
Yeah, I did.
Unfortunately.
So we could follow up with Delaware traffic and have them kind of reach out to the GPS companies.
Is that how that
It's kind of
happens?
a battle to get the GPS companies maps changed.
Okay.
But if we've done it, I mean, people's the trucks GPS used to send them all sorts of crazy. So it's kind of a battle, but you know.
I think part of that issue is you can turn on to Cherry to go into Zach's and
Yeah,
Sassy's and
correct.
stuff. But then, but that's the only place that's that way to do it, because the rest of it is
But
one
I-
way,
I-
but there's no, I know, I get what you're saying, but I'm just
There
like.
was a prime driver one day and I stopped him and I said, you're past where it's two-way.
Right,
And he said, I'm very sorry, and he showed me his GPS.
right,
You know, so, but I do have to comment that the blinking lights at 6th and Delaware, I'm in favor of them because I think it's made people go to 25 miles an hour that they're supposed to be doing on 6th instead of running through the light. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Savage, live on East 6th Street. I hate to disagree with you, but that flashing light hasn't stopped me. I live 2 houses up from the light at the corner. And one day, and I've already talked to the chief of police about it, I videotaped the whole day. Actually, I did it for 2 days. And 90%, I mean 90%, 88, 90% of the cars don't even stop at that stop sign on the corner. Do not stop. And I have it on tape. On top of that, you know, it's like, it's a joke. I mean, I'm 2 houses up, by the time they get past that stop sign and get to my house, they're already going 35. So how slow are they going to go if it's 15? They're going to go 25? And then today, 2 people in a row, I was sitting in the living room, I'm telling you, it's like a race going up there. It's ridiculous. You know, my wife yesterday almost got hit. A guy was coming up 6th. She was coming on off Harmony to come to our house, which is literally like that. And I'm telling you, this guy almost hit her. And he had to, when he ran that thing, he was going at least 35 miles an hour, ran that stop. And they do it every day. I got the camera, I put it on there. Anyway, it's going with speed limit. Speed limit, I like the idea, I'm thrilled to death. The problem is, if they're not going to slow down and go to speed limit now, what are they going to do then?
Right.
The only thing I can think of, I used to work in a 55 and older community, and we had the same problem. People ran stop signs, and we put cameras and speed signs, and you know what? That made the difference. One day, I think it was last week, walking when that happened, there was 2 trucks. Anyway, one of them was an Amazon truck that was parked on across the street from my house. There was another truck parked in front of my house. And the truck on the other side was not really all the way in. You couldn't get it all the way in. That was an Amazon. Anyway, bottom line is tractor trailer, the biggest one I've ever seen. I mean, this thing is wide and longer than any tractor trailer I ever hit. Right, it took him 15 minutes to get past those 2 trucks.
I agree with you on that.
And,
So your time is up, and one more comment for tonight, and we'll start our regular meeting. You want to stay around and finish up with public comments after our regular meeting?
anyway,
Sir, this will be nice. Thank you.
Good evening, Bill Gross from Moore Avenue. I've got to say, as being a member of the advisory committee and attending Zoom meetings and such, I got to say, you're like 95% there. There might be some disagreements and some tweaking, but overall, the Dutch turn, if we're going to insist by council keeping a four-way stop sign, that Dutch setup, the turn, will definitely alleviate a lot of it. But again, with the light, I got to applaud the chief because I sat with him yesterday. And they are being more vigilant on ticketing people that are speeding through the city to answer some people's concerns, as well as the stop signs. So I think the shot over the bow to let people know that a stop sign means stop and not roll through cautiously, I think is going to get the point. The parking by the Veterans Memorial, at this present point, unless I'm missing something, I think that would be a great use of that space. But again, not on the Memorial's triangle. I think 273, it is what it is. We all get stuck there, but if the state says the count has to be a certain level, then guess what? Bumaka is not going to be able to change that. So unfortunately, it is what it is. And don't forget, I did bring it up, the Dutch turn at Ferry and 6. There is an approved project at some point in the next few years will be built at that triangle. So that will add 50, 60 more cars coming out of that space into that Dutch turn. So, but other than that, I gotta say, congratulations and thank you for the hard work.
Okay, thank you. Like I said, anytime, anybody have any other comments, have a chance to take the mic, just fill that leave on the back table. You have a motion to adjourn? So moved. All in favor? We'll take a 10-minute break to get set up for our regular meeting. And we're welcome to stay. Hey, Rick. Yes, sir.
Oh, should I stop the recording? Should I stop the recording? How about I pause?
I'd like to call this regular meeting of City of Newcastle Council meeting together. We're going to start by standing and saying pledge allegiance to the flag.
Of the United States of America, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
A motion to approve the minutes from the September 14th, 2021 council meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
On the report, secretary report is as of October 31st, 2021. Total unrestricted funds, $6,842,225.05. Total restricted funds, $3,022,655.68.
Total cash in the accounts, $9,864,880.73. I really have nothing to report other than the obvious. And we had no hardly any changes this month. Just paid some people.
Thank you. I'm sorry, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes.
Jumping the gun a little bit.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Council President Michael Platt.
Present.
Councilperson Suzanne Souter.
Present.
Councilperson Russell Smith.
President.
Councilperson Joseph Day.
President.
Councilperson Valerie Leary.
Present.
Also present Daniel Lasco, City Solicitor. Mayor Michael Quaranta, Richard McCabe, Chief of Police, Janet Carlin, City Treasurer, and Jeff Bergstrom, Building Official. Absent is Bill Barthel.
The city administrator won't be attending tonight. He's taking care of some personal business. He did ask me
Suzanne has a couple
oh,
questions.
yeah, sorry.
On page 3 of the budget report, we had a laborer that was out July, August, and September, and that's the temporary. And then the building repairs and the public services, which we had to get a new door for the garage. In August. Okay. Thanks.
Motion to approve the treasurer's report. Second. All in favor? Aye. So moved. Like I said, the city administrator is taking care of some personal business tonight. He just wanted me to read some notes. The city has engaged a law firm for the ARPA funds, Lawrence, Burns, and Woodburn. There will be a special meeting on 12/8. The topic of discussion requested by the Board of Health, emergency op personnel. Board members understand the city plan and then an emergency. Dave Carpenter, Newcastle County Emergency Management Coordinator will be there. Chief McCabe, Chief Majewski, and just make sure that we're all available. If you're not, please contact the city administrator so we can reschedule as soon as possible. So, as reported last month, we have reported back concerning the security of the city buildings. It's being reviewed still, and we need to schedule a meeting with council so we can discuss. That's all he has. Bertram, anything from you, sir?
Nothing that wasn't presented in the report.
Thanks, sir. Chief?
Good evening. If there's no questions about the monthly report, I can just go through a few topics real quick. Last month, I mentioned that Captain Chocart was going to look for email from Captain Chocart. We didn't see one because operational issues arose and kept her busy. So I hope that will go out soon. That's for the mental health training stuff. We're hoping to meet with some folks first and then get into some businesses. So still a good time to keep pushing the subject with anybody that might know. I was all prepared to brag about some of the success stories we had with dirt bikes, and I was making notes at my desk. 3 of them drove past my office on one wheel. So, 1 foot, we're taking a step forward, 2 step back sometimes. We did make a few arrests last month. One of them was significant in that he was a repeat offender. And if you're familiar with the client now, the bail reform, this young man got a secured bail, which is pretty significant. So that should say, and I hope the residents hear this, that should tell folks that the judges are listening to us. So we just, and I'm going to brag about the Peter factor. We recognized somebody on the bike tonight. We're going to sign a warrant for this kid. So we're going to continue doing this, but this does not happen unless we have the support of the residents. This is a community arrest. This is because people are telling us who are on the bikes and they're cooperating with us. So this is absolutely 100% a partnership arrest. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chief.
I would just like to remind everyone that Thursday is Veterans Day. And it is, if everyone would take time at the 11th hour of the 11th day to remember those who have served. And also this week, today and tomorrow, is acknowledging and celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And there will be events through Arlington Cemetery. You can find those online, and they will be right at some version of it.
Yeah. Just a quick thanks to the trustees in our recent nor'easter that flooded in the Battery Park. Wasn't as bad as usual and it dissipated very rapidly. And a couple of people mentioned that to me and I noticed it myself as well. So the work seems to have been successful. I just have a question for Mr. Bergstrom. Are we making any progress on the drainage problem at the Strand and Delaware Street? I noticed some blue lines painted on the street, and I didn't know if that meant they were preparing to put in that extra storm drain.
Yes, they are. The storm drain, there was a fire in the foundry, but they fixed the foundry. They cast our storm drain gates. They've been delivered to our contractor, and anticipated construction is either, well, they're pushing it towards Thanksgiving week.
Oh, okay. Great, thank you.
Mr. Kine?
Good evening, everybody. I sent this to all of you. So a couple of things I want to just mention. The governor and the Delaware secretary were in the city about a week ago and announced the Delaware Climate Action Plan. And I know this is of importance, frankly, all of us. The city of Newcastle is not the lowest place in the state. It's close to the lowest place in the state in terms of sea level. And we are a threat. And so we'll take time, all of us, and I would invite everybody here too, to digest the plan and see what some of the recommendations are in the action steps. I do think, though, it's really important to be very clear about this stuff. The city, with a $5.5 million budget, can take certain steps to do its part to remediate our threats as best as we possibly can. But this is a federal, in the conversation I had with the governor, and he agrees, and he'll tell any of you, this is going to take federal resources. This is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar endeavor nationwide to actually do the kinds of things that are necessary if we choose as taxpayers to take on some of these remediation steps to kind of defend ourselves against sea level rise. The river over the last couple decades has approached about 4 inches. That's a DNREC figure. You can dispute it if you like, or you can agree with it if you like, but that's their number. When you look at the responsibility of the city government, there are a few things we can do. We can take certain steps for planning purposes. All of our plans have to go through state planning in order to be approved. We can't do things that would put Delaware City at risk or the city of Wilmington at risk. Frankly, even we can't even do things that would put Pennsville at risk. So we have to be very thoughtful about the steps we take. And there are things that we can do to plan. But at the end of the day, raising the dike levels, we can't rampart ourselves in without incredible amounts of resources. And so this is going to be a shared responsibility between the federal government, the state government, and the local government. I think that we just ask as you think about these issues and you talk to different officials, whether they're federal, state, or local, understand the ability that they have to actually address these things in a meaningful way. Thank you. The trustees approved placement of EV charging locations in the parking lot at 2nd and Chestnut Street, or a single charger with 2 outlets. Scott Blomquist from the MSC will confirm the details of approval with, and I know we've done this with trustee president Pete Toner. They are going to put on payment options. Scott has got back written payment information from a consultant, so he's now got better insight into what the rates ought to be for charging consumers that do charge. And that's probably going to be the subject of the next MSC meeting, which I believe is next week. And I think included in those fees will be idling fees. And for those that aren't familiar with this, you plug your car in, once it's full, if your car remains in that spot after about 10 minutes after it's 100% charged, the fees start to, you incur fees pretty substantially in a pretty short period of time. I learned this the hard way by $20 charging recharge when I had in the District of Columbia. I left my car and I came back about an hour later after lunch with my daughter. Well, my $20 charge turned out to be $78. That was a mistake I have never made again, and I will never make again. That was a pretty big disincentive, and that was bigger than any parking ticket I could get. But people that own EVs understand this. There are things called, these are charging locations. They're not EV parking spots. Big difference. And speaking of that, we do need some kind of policy guidance from council and the chief. Some signage. I've had conversations with all of you, most recently with President Platt. Signage, designated places. Again, these are charging locations. They're not parking spaces. You charge, if your car is charged, you move it to an available parking spot.
And Ms. Rand,
Yeah.
I'm sure that other towns already have these policies in place, so rather than reinventing the wheels, could we not draw from other locations and just tweak to fit us?
I think that there are many things we could, that we do have a couple of unique circumstances that we have to consider, but correct, we don't have to start from scratch. Tonight, I'm going to nominate Kristen Zumar of Van Dyke Village to the City Planning Commission tonight to fill, what is it, David's unexpired term. Appreciate her willingness to step up and serve in our community. That'll give us representation from that part of town. Appreciate that. We also have my recommendation for two neighbors tonight who will continue to serve pending your approval on the tree committee. And I would urge your renomination of those two people. Speaking of trees, I know you're hearing from some neighbors about trees that are related to safety topics, and I know that we do our best to remove trees and limbs that are a potential hazard. Mother Nature has a way of kind of getting in the way of disregarding the best of plans. However, it's helpful to remind all residents about how we assess the health of trees, what to do if they spot what appears to be a tree in need of trimming or removal. It's not a static process. A healthy tree one day can look in some peril after a storm. And so we've got to be forever diligent about that and be ready to remedy situations as they need. But it's important for residents to communicate all that when you spot a tree that needs some care. As Ms. Leary pointed out, Thursday is Veterans Day, and I join you and everyone in saluting our veterans and including those who are in active duty. Now that the traffic light at 6th and Delaware Streets in a planned study phase, I do think it would be wise for council to join me in a joint letter to our state legislative delegation and DelDOT secretary and ask them to research other traffic light options in surrounding states. I know that when we discussed this idea with DelDOT, we were given two options to replace the light that is presently there. One appeared to be a horse with a bad leg, and the other one appeared to be a horse that was ready for the food factory. They were really two pretty poor options. And so there are other options that other states use in Maryland, Virginia. They have historic communities, Annapolis, Alexandria, Williamsburg. They do things that fit in terms of style, aesthetic, and scope. And I think that there probably are some things that the Maryland Department of Transportation, Virginia Department of Transportation, other departments have proved. I don't think that our DelDOT folks, as good as they are, I don't think they're any better or any worse than VDOT or MDOT. So I think that we try to research what options those states have already approved, we might find some things that could be options for us while we're in this study phase.
I'd certainly like to, that, the the letter, actually put a deadline on it, which is be waiting 3 years. If we wait for more.
I don't- I'd like to suggest that you draft a letter, we can support for the delegation.
Happy to share a draft with guys and you. Appreciate it. Finally, I want to compliment Chief McCabe for the graphic depictions that he and the team are offering for monthly statistics. I think that's very helpful. And I do, someone who has had quite a bit of ATV traffic down West 9th Street and dirt bikes that are not licensed to be on the road. I appreciate all of that. I think that creates all sorts of trouble for kids. I've had people in Shawtown reach out to me and say, hey, I got little kids that are walking around the streets here and these guys are coming through here at a pretty good clip, not stopping, stop signs. And so I appreciate the diligence. And I'm out there with my camera all the time. If I capture my camera, I hope it gets not to take a break and put it into it. And finally, I want to say thanks to the city staff and President Platt, others who made the Lions Club, which Kim, for making Halloween very, very special for kids and our families in this time. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to mention, speaking of the Delaware Climate Action Plan, I was at that ceremony as well, and made me think it's time Newcastle has a climate action plan. We've been doing plans with DENREC for quite a while. Haven't heard about any of those recently. Seems like we ought to have some action plan. What actions are we taking? What actions can we take? And identify what aid we do need.
So I would say this, we have, so there's a number of, and I know Ms. Sauer spent time on this too, the resiliency kinds of efforts and state planning coordinates some of that. And I think that we've taken a lot of steps. I don't know if it's all coordinated into one particular location, but there are pieces to the things that we've done. And I think we all need to be thankful of what we can do. But at the end of the day, after we've done all the planning, we put all the pieces of the puzzle in place, it's going to take real resources, I think, to actually do the real hard work. That is, how are we going to mitigate sea level rise? There's things we can do as a community, sure, but we also need the muscle of the state pushing other surrounding communities to do likewise. We need to manage this on a more broad basis, and also it's going to take a lot of federal resources to actually then do the infrastructure work that's necessary to really address this in a meaningful way. But
The key is action plan.
Right.
Identify when and who.
Sure.
And I understand the DENREC study that we requested is due sometime during the winter, I think. And I'm gonna wait till then to suggest this, but I understand the city of Lewis has established a ad hoc committee to study climate, come up with a proposal for a climate action plan, and they were given a deadline to make the recommendations. And I think it's something we might want to consider, have citizens involved and, for them to thoroughly review this DENREC report once we receive it and pull together what we've already done, what's left to be done, explore funding sources and all the things you mentioned, but they want to get that organized.
And there's sense of doubling what the DENREC's.
Right, so build on that.
Right, absolutely. I agree with that. And I think also, delineating clearly what's going to be a federal role, what's going to be a state role, what's going to be a municipal role. Because I think while everyone will have ideas, I think you'll discover the municipal role will actually be quite small. The state role will be quite large. The federal will have the lion's share of the responsibility because they have a pocketbook to actually do the heavy lifting on this. But I do think pulling all that together, I think, is a good idea. Great, thank you.
I just have one thing, Mr. Ferguson. The permit for repairing the seawall next to the pier, that's all in motion now, correct?
Yes.
It's all ready to go.
I expect the permit to be issued within a week after November 16th.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Platt? So actually, while the Denrec secretary was here, Bertram took the opportunity to meet with the secretary, walk him over with Fred Gallagher, and actually show him the actual location and go, it's been about 2 years since that permit's been on your desk, we're waiting for it. And Jeff was able to get commitment to move it along. So,
Thank you. Like I said, I mentioned it last month, so just follow up. Okay. Any comments from the floor on agenda items only? Agenda items only?
Yes, Bill Gross, more Avenue. Just a quick question on two things on the agenda. The resolution of the city of Newcastle consenting to deed restrictions on the vinyl siding for the Riverbend project. Was it mandated prior? Because unfortunately, there were no links on the original agenda page to find out what they were told to do versus vinyl. What was it originally? That
There was
they
a
had-
deed restriction that was put in for some reason, and nobody knows why. It was natural material had to be used. It costs natural materials and trying to get it and so forth and so on. Just makes sense for have a presentation of what type of materials they're asking to use and go from there.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. The second one is the, I might have missed it, but for the bicycle route 201, where is it different than what we have? Where is there something being added or? Sorry, that's number 5.
It's just connecting bikes throughout the eastern seaboard.
Okay, and particular spot that we aren't connected or just the general, if it's not connected. Okay, thank you.
Well. Anyone else? Anyone else? First resolution 2021-18, a resolution of amending restricted covenant on Riverbend at Old Newcastle. Do I have a motion to read the resolution?
Second.
Whereas effective, and so you can give your presentation after I read, that way everybody knows what we're going to do and you can just follow through with that. Okay.
Thank you.
Whereas declaration of restrictions declaration was recorded on July 27, 2006 in the Office of Records of Deeds in and for Newcastle County. The records office at instrument number 20060727-007 against a certain property as more particularly shown and described on a certain record plan for Riverbend at Old Newcastle of the record of the recorded office and instrument number 2007-1029-009-3852 record plan. And whereas Freedom Development LLC, Freedom, according to the portion of the property on March 26, 2021, pertinent to certain special waivers. Am I done? Waiver deed to the recorder's office at instrument number 2021-068-0077247. And whereas among the restriction covenant contained in the declaration and the record plan is required that the exterior front walls, side and rear of all residents constructed in the development should be constructed of natural material, e.i. stone, brick, stucco, wood, etc. The record plan additionally states the purpose of the building are to be constructed of wood, stone, brick, stucco, no vinyl siding is to be used on the exterior of any unit. The foregoing restriction covenant shall in hereafter be referred to as siding restriction. Whereas Freedom has requested that the city amend the siding restrictions to permit the use
of certain vinyl sidings as shown and provided to council by Freedom. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the city council of the city of Newcastle hereby confirms the consent to amend the siding restriction to permit the use and installation of certain types and grades of vinyl siding consistent with the sample specifications provided to council during this public hearing of November 11th, 2021. And residential units constructed on the property. Foregoing consent is subject to free construction of all residential units on the property consist with the rendering and specification provided to council. Copies of all specification rendering provided to council at this hearing are attached to Exhibit A.
Much more correction today, so never know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do we need to formally correct that to make Mr. Ross say?
Before you vote on the resolution, you should entertain a motion to amend that.
Okay.
Correct that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, members of council and mayor. My name is Sean Tucker for the record. I represent the applicant this evening, Freedom Development. Mr. Riley is here, who's Vice President of Freedom Development. He's my right table. We want to thank you for putting this matter on the agenda this evening. I know it's already been a bit of a long night, so I'll try my best to move along briskly regarding our application. As some or all of you may know, back in 2007, the river bend property was approved by subdivision by the city. Mr. Capano was the primary developer at the time, and I believe Parkway Gravel was also involved, at least they are today, in some of the lots. But my client ultimately bought approximately 134 lots of that project approved in 07. Recently, through a foreclosure type action. So the original developer, Mr. Capano, apparently had agreed to the condition, President, that you had stated in the record regarding the vinyl siding. We've made inquiries with the city. We've made Freedom of Information Act requests to try to get the history of why that was put on in a non-historic district. And I think folks that have been involved with that request to the city, that we've made an exhaustive search and looked through minutes and agendas and really couldn't find the origins or the genesis behind that note, but nonetheless, it is on the plan. Our client, as you know, also approached the city about a possible revision and amendment to that note. One, because it was not an historic area. Two, we couldn't find a rationale for it in public records. Three, we're not aware of any other non-historic area that had such a condition. Four, we think we have some nice product to put on the new homes that my client would like to build. We'd like to share with all of you. And five, and I think President you mentioned this, the cost and supply of materials is anyone's guess as we move forward here over the next couple of months. Unfortunately, it just is. It's not something you can really predict right now with certainty. But I think most importantly, from an aesthetic standpoint, I hope you agree what we share with you tonight is quite handsome and consistent with the area. To that end, we attempted to electronically share our PowerPoint, and we failed. I found out tonight, and we tried again, and I failed a second time, unfortunately. So, fortunately, I brought the old school manual back.
You can pass them around, you can look at them if you like, if you don't mind.
A couple up to council when they approach. Thank you very much.
So save.
Yeah, well, you're in mind. Yeah, I know, so there's one, you know, the secret notice. Thank you. And then you want to pass them around. Oh, yeah.
This
is the PowerPoint that we would have presented electronically.
The city must have gotten it because we have this in our council.
Okay, well, good. It may have been a slightly outdated version, but I think there was a newer one that went around today. Anybody like a copy?
Here, take a look.
As the president noted in the resolution, the materials that we're presenting this evening would be certainly a condition of the approval that we made this evening. So the PowerPoint that I handed out is the updated, this current PowerPoint. And one of the things I would note, I think is very important in your deliberation of this request is, although vinyl is proposed, there is a engineered stone component in all the elevations. So there would not be a house that would be entirely vinyl. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, why find people who use it on vinyl? But there is a architectural distinction or feature. There is a engineered stone component as well. And we brought actual samples of the stone that could be used. There are 4 types, and these would also become part of the record. This just gives you a flavor. It's engineered stone, but I would say it's answer. I went to the gym a month ago. Okay. It is real stone, although it's obviously thinner gear type. And again, we'll look at all the pictures in the current version of the PowerPoint have that feature. In addition, there's vinyl siding and there's vinyl siding. And one of the things that we are proposing this evening is an upgraded vinyl siding that Joe Craig Homes, who will be the ultimate builder here, offers. Typically, you have to pay extra for it. That will be a standard and not an extra upgrade charge. And this gives you, this is the beaded vinyl. Also, this is part of the record. Thicker with the bead. And there are different color options that would be available at no extra charge. So again, normally an upgrade, but it would be included as standard. The stone is often an upgrade too. Not always in the elevation from the stone, but in this case, all the elevations are from the stone. So another upgrade in most cases, but it would be standard for this application. And you can see the pictures. I apologize, we don't have the electronic version, but we did get out a couple of binders. The renderings, I think, are quite attractive and certainly consistent with other development in Castle County. Lastly, we'd also like to offer up, if the council is so interested, as a condition, sprinkler system as mandatory as opposed to optional. I'm talking to folks that came up, and our client is certainly able to do that and include that as, again, an offer in exchange for approval this evening of the deed restriction for the plan. So to summarize, we are proposing to be bound by the specific materials that we are presenting, that you made part of the record. And that we would also be agreed to be bound by all the units being built hereafter, including sprinkler systems at no extra cost to the home buyer. As part of our proposed compromise in this resolution. And with that, we are happy to answer any questions you may have about the project, about our proposal and the materials that we've offered.
I'm just really happy to see that this neighborhood is really getting back on track. I know years ago, we used the clubhouse over there for the thing. So I think it's a really good thing. It's not in the historic area, so we really don't have to worry about it And you've read this, of course, Mr. Losco, there's no issue.
I have, but I have a question for you, if I may.
Yeah.
The stone elevation, is that on the front elevation? It's not gonna be on the side?
That is correct.
Okay.
So the front elevation shows the house.
And I see some of the models, some of the pictures just show the stone fascia just at like the grade level. So that'll be also a common feature, I assume, right?
Yes, and you may have the one that has been updated that includes one or two examples of all vinyl that has been removed by what I hate in the version I handed out.
Okay. And the models that are in your handout here, these are the particular models that will be built at Urban Med.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
And let me just say this just as a caveat, if I may, Mr. Wasco. There's certainly a possibility, because we anticipate this to be a 2 or 3 year build out, that there could be some minor adjustments in the models of the stone requirement and the upgraded vinyl side would be mandatory.
And just one more thing, to actually implement this, council would adopt the resolution, then you would draft an amendment to the deed restrictions that either the council president or the city administrator would execute to record the amendment, correct?
That's correct. And you mentioned you had a couple other boards of the vinyl. Just in fairness, just to share this as well. I'm sorry.
We're okay.
There is a- Okay, very good. Just trying.
The council has no other
I
questions.
got one more thing. Just first up, this is going to be used for the city. They're putting sprinkler systems in all these places. I mean, what place, safe place for that? It's pretty verifying home sprinkler systems and especially 55 and older. And then the other thing is there's a user fee that is built into this. So the city's going to make money. The fire department gets part of that user fee, if I'm correct. So it's a win-win for everyone. And like Valerie said, the property is there for decades, decades.
So just so that you would revise the deed restriction currently to remove the siding restriction, but you would add it to include sprinkler restriction.
Yes, we'd be happy to add the sprinkler specifically in addition to our representations.
Just a technical question here. Our resolution here mentions vinyl siding and doesn't mention manufactured stone. What do you call that? That would be included as part of the.
Mr. Lawson, you can answer that with it's stone.
It's stone, I always thought there's some ambiguity in that language. They talk about natural materials. Bricks are not natural, that's manufactured. This is manufactured too, but I think the intent was to not use vinyl at the time and to use wood, stone, foul stone, or bricks. So I don't think it requires anything more than the deed restriction. What all we need to really do is to connect these vinyl samples to the restrictions so that we don't get the lower grade vinyl installed, but we get the actual type of vinyl that they proposed to have.
And I may also speak for the record, to read the last section of the resolution. Before going consent is subject to freedom constructing all residential units on property consistent with the renderings and specifications provided to council. Copies of all specifications and renderings provided to council at the hearing are attached here to exhibit A. So what we brought tonight, we're happy to leave. If Mr. Bergstrom has the energy to and we're relatively happy. We're happy to discuss.
I make a motion as amended for the date. Is that how I think?
The motion or the resolution's already been amended.
Okay,
So now you.
so I just make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So basically, thank you very much.
And you'll work with me on the amended document, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Agenda is resolution 2021-19, resolution approving improvement on the stairs at 107 Strand. And motion to read it. Whereas Warren and Mary Grace Flowers, owners, have applied to the city of Newcastle for authorization to construct a front porch and stairs that will encroach on the Strand Road to provide access to a building located at 107 Strand. The Strand, known as tax parcel number 21-015.00-172 property. And whereas the Historic Area Commission has approved the preliminary plans for the proposed structure, including the front yard and the setback. Whereas the city understands that the proposed encroachment of the front porch and stairs will extend 6 feet plus or minus into the Strand, as illustrated on the certain lines of graded sediment and erosion plan prepared by the also company attached to Exhibit A. And whereas the applicants have agreed to waive any damage arising from the removal of the entire erosion portion of the structure, including the dwelling, the porch required for the use of the Strange right away by the city. Now, whereas Leslie resolved that the application of the owners, Warren and Mary Grace Lauer, to maintain the above described encroachment of a porch and stairs at a property located at 107 Strand, known as tax parcel number 20-1015.00-72 is approved, subject to due execution and recording of licensed agents in form acceptance of the city administrator and the city solicitor. Further, it is further resolved that the city administrator is authorized to execute and record such license agreements with paid by the property owner.
I have a question. And is there anybody here who can speak to this? No, Jeff?
Of course.
So 101 and 103, the Strand, is the owner of 101 there in the back. Their front porches extend onto the sidewalk.
Onto the right of way, yes.
Right, so how do they extend into the right of way?
It's difficult because they didn't have surveys of those properties. Something like 4 or 5 feet is what I'm guessing from what I can see. And this is going to be the same. We rounded it up to 6 feet because I could not tell from the drawing. Once we see the final architecturals on the Strand, we will know that. I bet we're going to know that.
As long as it doesn't extend further out beyond what's at 101 and 103. I don't know.
It says plus or minus, that gives us the wiggle room, right?
Right. The license agreement says 6 feet.
Okay.
And I walked over there this afternoon, and the neighboring properties, not only do the steps come down, but they have raised beds and plantings and things around the steps.
Right, I just don't know that it's 6 feet out and down. I just, that's all I'm saying.
I have to make them have the 88, 5-foot sidewalk, so.
Okay.
They'll run into,
So that's what's
they'll
in
run
front
into
of-
a brick wall that's not there.
So what's in front of 101 and 103 is a 5-foot wide ADA approved, which would have to be the same on this one. Okay. All right.
Any other questions? All in favor? So good. Resolution 2021-30, a resolution approving the mayor's appointment to planning to fulfill the unexpired term of David Baldwin. Have a motion to read the resolution. Whereas the City of Newcastle Code provides that the mayor of the City of Newcastle appoints 9 members to the planning commission, subject to confirmation by the City Council, each for a 3-year term. And whereas there is currently 1 vacant position on the planning commission, and whereas the City Council proposed to confirm and appoint Kristen Zerber to fill the unexpired term of David Baldini, which is ending 24, 2022. Therefore, let it be resolved that the city council hereby approves the appointment of the following person to the planning commission, fiscal observer, planning commission term ending October 24, 2022. Like, thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you to Mayor Quaranta for nominating me. Just, like to do my best for the city.
Thank you for stepping up and actually what to get involved.
Any questions, council? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2021-31, resolution approving the mayor's reappointment to the Tree Advisory Commission of Sheila Shannon and Scott Savage. Wish to read the resolution?
Reading a lot.
We've got it, right.
Whereas as the Newcastle City Council passed ordinance 500 to amend our restate chapter 74 relating to the tree division in chapter 210 of the code of the city of Newcastle relating to street trees created in the tree advisory commission, and whereas pursuant to 74-1 of the code, the tree advisory commission shall consist of 5 members, each serving a 3-year term. 2 members shall be appointed by the mayor of Newcastle, to be confirmed by the city council. 3 shall be appointed by city council, and whereas a member shall be selected on the basis of education, experience, or demonstrated interest in related fields. Members need not be city residents, whereas there are currently 2 expiring positions on the tree advisory commission. Now therefore be it resolved, the city council hereby approves the mayor's reappointment of Sheila Shannon and Scott Savage to the tree advisory commission. Shannon, November 13, 2024, mayor's appointment. Scott Savage, November 13, 2024, mayor.
Any questions?
No.
All in favor? Next, we have resolution 2021-32, a resolution of the city of Newcastle stating it supports the development of the U.S. Bike Route 201.
Whereas bicycle tourism is a growing industry in North America, presently contributing approximately $47 billion a year nationally to the economies of communities that provide facilities for said tourism. And whereas the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, AASHTO, has designated a corridor through Newcastle County to be developed as United States Bike Route 201. And whereas the city of Newcastle, with the cooperation of the Delaware Department of Transportation and other stakeholders, have proposed a specific route to be designed as USBR 201, a map of which is herein incorporated into this resolution by reference. And whereas the proposed USBR 201 traverses through the city of Newcastle and is expected to provide a benefit to local residents and businesses. And whereas the city of Newcastle has duly considered said proposed route and determined it to be a suitable route through the city of Newcastle, and desire that the route be formally designated so that it can be appropriately mapped and signed, thereby promoting bicycle tourism in the greater Newcastle County community. Now therefore be hereby resolved by the city of Newcastle City Council that city of Newcastle hereby expresses its approval and support for the development of USFR 201 and requests that the appropriate government officials take action to officially designate the route accordingly as soon as possible. Be it further resolved by the city of Newcastle City Council that the city of Newcastle agrees to post and maintain signs for said bicycle route once the designation has been made. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of the resolution viewed in the same are hereby rescinded.
Any questions?
I just noticed it says USBR and USFR. What is the correct?
USBR.
Yeah, it's
US.
Okay.
Comment that shouldn't necessarily be the city responsibility for providing signs like that we are being requested to approve. It's not the city's like that.
Would you like me to address that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is that why you stuck
my
around all this time?
Yeah, this was on in my request. I think thank you for
Okay.
making it a two-for me. I think that all in one night. The U.S. bicycle route, signs are optional, so designation does not require the communities that it goes through to install signs. Also, because of the multi-jurisdictional nature of this route, I would anticipate, similar to the East Coast Greenway, that DelDOT would take the lead in signing the route throughout Newcastle.
I would suggest then that we eliminate that paragraph that obligates us to post things on.
That was,
Any further more is,
the last one. Oh, okay.
Right.
So we make a motion to strike the 7th paragraph. Okay.
Removing that doesn't prevent us from putting in what we choose
Correct.
to.
It just doesn't
eliminates
obligate.
the
We're just
requirement.
not, we're not out. Correct.
Because we've been trying to promote cycling, so.
Correct. Correct, and it's gonna basically go to the map that follows the exact same.
Right, it's not really
Right,
changing
right.
anything.
Right, nothing.
Okay, we have a vote on the amended resolution. All in favor?
We have a chance to vote on the resolution.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Council discussion on possible changes to.
We didn't vote on that.
So I make a motion for the resolution as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, possible changes to the composition of the board of adjustment and enforcement of condition imposed on the board of adjustment.
Mr. Day, you want to take a shot at this one since you brought it up?
Sure.
I don't have a copy of that.
There is no resolution, it's just discussion.
It's a discussion, never mind.
It's just a discussion.
So I had some conversations with some constituents, including a retired surveyor in town, and the board of adjustment was brought up. So we wanted to have this conversation for council's input, obviously for constituents input. But currently, the board of adjustment is made up of the mayor and the city attorney and the city engineer. Most boards of adjustment in the area and really in the region are made up of citizens of the town or the county that actually do the voting. They also have their county or city attorney is there, but in advisory role. And that's what I would propose, that we follow that kind of role for the city of Newcastle. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it should be residents voting on our variance requests, the special use request. And I think it puts our city engineer or planner in an advisory capacity to advise that board of adjustment. And I also think it puts our attorney in a better role to advise the board, not to actually be sitting on the board voting for variance requests or special use exemption.
I understand you have some expertise in this field since you're involved in this sort of thing, right? In the county.
Why I'm involved in land use, and this is typical, this is the same fashion that the county handles it. But I will also tell you it's the same fashion that most towns and counties handle it on the East Coast. I've done some research and I've not found anybody that has it set up exactly the way we do, which I think is odd. I'm sure that there was a reason it was done, and this is not meant to point any fingers or say anything was done wrong. I just think it's the right thing to do for the town. I think in addition to doing that, we expanded to 5 members. I think in the past, there's been some issues where maybe one member did not want to vote on something that was an integral vote, I'll say, to the town. And then you could end up in a position where you have a 1-to-1 vote, which most of you know, I'm sure, that it doesn't pass. If you don't have enough votes, it doesn't pass. I mean, you have to have a majority. So a 1-to-1, the application would fail. So I do think, like I said, this is the right way for us to proceed. Whether it's mayor's appointments and the mayor comes off of the Board of Adjustment, or if the mayor wants to stay on the Board of Adjustment and then it would be council appointments. Again, I wanted to bring this up for some discussion and hear what everybody, if there was some support for this.
So you're talking 5 total members with the city solicitor and the city engineer being in advisory position.
It could be the city engineer or the city planner.
You need a vote.
Well,
You need a solicitor and you
Right,
need.
Absolutely.
So you would need a
Right.
solicitor and you might need the city engineer, because you don't speak to the engineering of the city.
No. The solicitor still has to purchase it.
Right, yeah, but it would depend on the issue, whether the engineer is.
It would depend on the issue, and generally what we say, I'm going to repeat myself, but the engineer or the city planner should be giving recommendations to the Board of Adjustment, whether it's recommendations to approve or disapprove, or to offer some type of alternative solution, whether it's more landscaping, a bigger buffer, or whatever it is. The planner and engineer are obviously key professionals that should be able to look at the variance request and make a good proposal to the Board of Adjustment, and then it's up to the Board of Adjustment to hear both sides and make a decision.
So the only voting members would be residents from the community, the others be advisors.
Yes. And if you remember, most of the, I'll just take the Board of Health, we used to have a council member on it. But the city started pulling that back and having it as residents, and really the council members, for the most part, don't serve on boards or commissions. But I think that's the right way to go for the city.
I guess I got a couple comments. I wouldn't mind having a mayor sit on the board. He sits on the commission or whatever. It's good to have representatives of the people sitting there. It's just not enough thing you use to council or the mayor. That's not a bad suggestion. The other thing is we have to really look hard at qualifications, because this is legal. This is like a court almost. You're gonna, when you make a decision, you're gonna have to defend it legally. Now, Ms. Roscoe or our solicitor can always guide you through that. Because you're running to start people as far as that goes. I don't think it's a bad idea.
And I don't have any, I'm not proposing that we take the mayor off. I feel like we wanted the conversation here, I'm open either way, but like I said, I think expanding it to 5 and making it, either 4 or 5 residents from the city, 5 residents of the city or 4 in the mayor, I think is the better option for us.
Would we then probably have to figure out, like you said, qualifications? Do you, or how do some of the other municipalities or areas, do they have qualifications, or is it just Alice, you can sit on the Board of Adjustment, but, does she feel she's qualified or not?
I don't think most jurisdictions have qualifications, but just like we just read in the tree commission appointments, we look for education and experience that is applicable to this. And again, I think it depends on us to get good candidates, but I think the city has plenty of good candidates. And I think with the advice of the attorney there and of the planner or engineer, I think, it can be successful.
Could we, as with the tree commission, they're not required to be residents of the city. I don't know that we want this entire board to be made up of non-residents, but if it's a 5-person board, could, for example, up to 2 members be non-residents? If we needed to go that route to get to the board. I'm just sort of thinking off the top of my head to get the
people with the appropriate experience.
I think most boards of adjustment have people that are residents of that
So
jurisdiction.
public comment, sir.
And I think that's what I would.
I mean, I understand the sensitivity of it because they're making decisions about the community. The trees, that's a little bit of a different thing. But we just wanted to ask the question.
Yeah, I asked the same question. I think it's, after you really think about it, I think it should be city residents. And I guess the second part of this is, I think it was discussed at one point, is giving the board of adjustments some teeth to anybody in violation. You know, I actually sat up and I read one night a bunch of decisions. And if you really look hard at it, there's people that don't abide by the variances that are given. And we have no way of addressing that. That's something that we should think about when we go forward. That should be part of this package.
We need to be able to enforce the conditions imposed upon the board of adjustment.
I'm sure you have some idea of how this is going on.
Right, and exactly, it's like just saying, no, it's on the strength, they go 7 feet. We actually go out and measure it, we normally wait till there's a problem. So I mean, there's just has to be some more problem. Okay, comments from the floor. Now, the comments from the floor can be on any subject right now. Sorry, I know you had your hand up, so if you'd like to come to the podium and sign in and introduce yourself, I appreciate it.
Yes, my name's Tom Whitehead. I'm the person Joe was speaking of. And I just have a couple comments. I was really taken back with your comment about not having qualified people. I mean, that's astonishing. Okay, I was on the Board of Adjustment in Pennsville back in the 80s. I'm 80 years old. I had a surveying business over there 40 years. I started my country in the sea beach from 61 to 65. Was on the sewer authority over there, same as your municipal sewer authority. Set up the same way, 5-member board. I was vice chairman of the board of the county board of appeals. So I know how boards are set up. Now, the way, and I don't want to be snotty or anything, this is just my way, I just come out this way, this is me. Okay.
Appreciate that.
Okay, you know, you've spoken to me when you ran.
Yep, absolutely.
And, you know.
Over the parking lot.
Yeah, now, the way we were set up was 5-member board. Citizens, voting members of taxpayers of Pennsville. All right, that's how we were set up. We had our Andy Reed was in fact, all the board members are dead now. I'm the last one that was on the board. Andy Reed was a town solicitor. He was our counsel. And we did have smart people on the board. In other words, to be on a board of adjustment is not rocket science. We notified everyone. We had a secretary keeping notes. The minutes were published timely. Within a week or so, you could walk into town hall, see the minutes. Everyone within 200 feet, excluding streets, they were all notified. I don't believe they do that here. Stick a damn sign out on a post and hope you walk by. that's wrong, and I saw that when I came here. And I saw how it operated, where you had the mayor, you had an engineer, and you had the town solicitor. They should serve as advisors. And this, we spoke to.
Yes.
You
I
don't,
remember that.
you don't have two people from out of town, like we're a bunch of damn dummies. That's a ridiculous thing.
I don't think anybody defend you. Everybody just throwing ideas out, that's all.
Okay, but I mean, come on.
No,
And Joe, he does that,
right.
you know, for a meeting. I don't mean to be that way.
No,
but-
you're not, your 3 minutes are up though. I do hate to say that to you.
All right, well, I asked for a couple more minutes. That's why. Up there.
Since it's Veterans Week or Veterans Days on Thursday, you served your country honorably, absolute.
Why?
And you get another 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. But I really think the town should look into this, because I've seen things happen around there that just like the apartments over there. It started out with 35 feet, building on fill area, things like that should be taken care of. Things like that. You really, I'm not saying have a loose for it. I'm saying have a tight for it and approve things on hardship. That's why they have a board of adjustment. It's a hardship variance. And I've seen things approved here that just flat out are not hardship. So I would highly recommend you have, look into this.
Okay.
And by the way, a couple years back, I called the city of Wilmington. They used to have this outdated, obsolete board. This board was probably set up, who knows, 100 years ago, when the average age, it was an agrarian society. The average age of education may have been the 5th grade, and they needed lawyers and engineers. The only place around I called Newark, I called Ellesmere, this place, that place, is Odessa. They have a similar board. If someone in the town would take the opportunity, and Joe knows it, we're an outlier. We're back in the dark ages. So take it or leave it. It's not.
Thank you, that we're taking that, because thank you for your service too.
Yeah, well. A long time.
Yeah, Phil Grossmore Avenue, could you give my 3 minutes later tonight?
Hey, you got 3 minutes, you didn't serve.
You're right, thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Lions Club for an awesome, inclusive Halloween parade. It was well done, as well as the chief for implementing a little more proactive ticketing and just making sure things go on. And I attended the tree advisory commission meeting. Amazing bunch of people, great people. So, you know, the 2 people that are staying on, it's great that they're staying on, and whoever put them on there, thank you, it was great. $5,000, which is what for some strange, bizarre reason, City Council is convinced it costs to Zoom meetings to the public. In the next week or so, I'll email each of you with a proposal where it will not cost more than $200 to include all the residents that either are still weary of attending group functions or working, or just choose to sit at home because they had a hard day and want to be a part of the process in the city that they pay taxes to.
Another thing is when agenda items are submitted to the city to be put on the city site, I would greatly appreciate if the attachments that go along with supporting or detailing the agenda are included, because until a couple days before, a day before the meeting, the links weren't there because the information wasn't submitted. So I greatly appreciate when the agenda is submitted, that all the backup information is included, so that we, the public, can research and see what's going on before the fact. Last but not least, down at the city pier, I did take pictures and I'll forward them on. Most of the fencing is rusted at the base, and there are gullies at each foundation of the fence. And the fence in a couple areas have listed so that they're not even straight and even. So again, I'll forward pictures that I took this afternoon. And of course, last but not least, this will be animal friendly. As far as that intersection at 6th Street, I can definitely tell you, it takes a couple extra minutes to get through there because people want to be courteous. But anyways, you got the point. Thank you.
Rod Miller, East Third Street. Week before last, we had a tree event, which I slept through. But I had a long talk with council president and the mayor about this, and I actually went to a tree commission meeting a week ago Monday. I've been complaining about my tree for 5 years now. The previous tree commission and I just didn't seem to get along too well. I like this tree commission quite a bit. They seem very helpful, very on top of things. The problem is they, after complaining to them a few times, they finally came out in the summer and we reached a compromise. They agreed it needed to be severely trimmed. They told me the tree across the street, which is another disaster, was also, in line for trim. Well, that's been, 3-4 months ago. What happened was, in the middle of the night, a branch came off of my tree, damaged my neighbor's car. Branch came from big branch across the street, damaged neighbor's car across the street. Unbeknownst today, it also, damaged our the gutter that goes down the middle of our 2 homes. Anyway, I went to the tree meeting, had a long talk with them, and it just, I need to get more feedback. I have a rough idea what the city kicks in for tree money every year. I know the tree commission applied for and got a lot of grants to do planting, which is wonderful. We need more money for the expensive things, which are removal and trimming of hazardous trees. So I just wanted to find out what we're doing as far as applying for grants. Is that something that, do we have professional grant writers, or are they too pricey? Is the city, actively going after this? Because, I have some background on this over in New Jersey. I know that there's money out there. Sometimes I know it dries up. I know the I know the trustees kick in a little bit, which is wonderful, but it's expensive. And if you're dependent on just the city workers to do this, that's great, but they're limited, right? And they've got other things to do. It takes money to do this. Maybe we need to get an outside tree service. Sometimes you can get cut deals with them, if they do volume work, but it just seems to me that this is something we need to get way ahead of. It seems like they got a big jump start now on planting trees. But when there's a long list of hazardous trees, see, I could have predicted what happened. It's lucky it hadn't happened before, right? But maybe it's good it did happen. It's not good, it did damage, but maybe it's a wake-up call here. A lot of people in town, I think, are confused, don't really understand, the situation with the city owning the trees and, and the decisions, that are made. But what do we know about this? Or what can you tell me about this now? Are there grants that we're actively applying for? And we get maybe the state senators involved with this? Maybe, the trustees a little bit for a little more money. I know it's not cheap to do tree work, but I would like to see us be way ahead of this. So it just becomes kind of like a yearly, maintenance thing. So we don't have like a list of 20, 30 or 40 trees, that are hazardous and we just got to wait. Okay, so.
No, appreciate that.
Kenny, are you coming up? While you're walking up, I just want to comment. I find that we actually need more than just our city guys trimming our trees, that we need a little bit more professional help on trimming the trees. I know, I think Jeff used to have that, but it's expensive, like he mentioned, and that he kind of brought it in-house. Maybe I'm wrong.
We try to use our resources to the best advantage and do the low hanging fruit, but we have a list of qualified tree trimmers that we use.
Yeah, I just think maybe we should bring them in. I just know, like on Harmony, when either MSC or the city, I'm not sure who it was, trimmed the trees, you know, they all kind of went into shock and gave up the ghost, and they all had to be removed and replanted. So I think it's sometimes in the long run, it might be a little cheaper to hire someone to come in, and there are professional ways to trim the trees to keep them away from the lines and stuff. That's just my comment.
Mr. Moore?
Yes, Tim Moore, Google Park. I just want to say on behalf of the members and officers of Google Park Company, we just want to thank everybody for coming out and supporting us on November 30th for our open house. It was nice weather, it was a good success. So thank you everybody for doing that. Also, we just want to remind everybody, if they haven't done so, please check the smoke detectors, make sure they're in operational order in reference to batteries and all that. Space heaters, Mother Nature's been teasing us a little bit with this crazy weather over the past 5-6 weeks. The space heaters, now that it's getting cooler out, especially at nighttime, we just want everybody to just be mindful that when you use, please keep in a good distance of any type of contents that can be flammable, catch fire, that kind of stuff. With the holiday season coming, everybody's got the Christmas decorations now and all that. So we just want everybody to be mindful, please, for power strips and other electrical type strips. Please don't overload them. That can definitely, cause an issue. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
There's a motion on the floor. Hold on, Mr. Mayor. Let's get a vote. Go ahead and start the clock.
Actually, I wanted to comment, if I could, discussion item. And Joe was quite clear, this wasn't directed at any personal decisions or anything, but a couple things I think I'd like to understand is we discussed this. What problem are we trying to solve? Just because we don't do it the way everybody else does doesn't necessarily make it wrong. We also have a provision in our code, you have to resign your office and run for another office. That's what there are countless others that do maintenance. So I'd like to understand, not saying that Councilman David is wrong, but I'd like to know what kind of problem we're trying to actually fix here. Two, there was a board of adjustment meeting on the Garrison that had to do with parking variance, had nothing to do with building. The wife had left, but he's wrong on the facts. It's difficult to get people to raise their hand and volunteer, and all of us know that. We have people who are regular communicators with each of us about city business, but it is a real challenge to get people to raise their hand and serve on all these boards and commissions. Applaud the ones that do, for sure. But this is also a judicial setting. It is not a policy making or advisory commission. It is a judicial setting. You have another member of the Board of Adjustment here as well. I don't know if he wants to make any comments about this, but I think there's a lot more we have to understand. I don't know, but I'd like to better understand kind of what problem we're trying to solve as opposed to just everybody else does it one way, we do it a different way. And I think also we follow what the state law says, because in the absence of an appointed board, state law requires the mayor, the city solicitor, and the building engineer be that role. And we're also, by the way, connected by a policy that was recently connected for the Board of Building Appeals. We're going to have our first meeting next week So if you're gonna adjust Board of Adjustment, you have to adjust the Board of Building Appeals.
Do you want me to read that email?
Oh, yes, yes, please.
This was an email that was sent in prior to the meeting last month. That didn't get, seen until after the meeting was over. From Darcy Fisk. Unfortunately, I am unable to attend in person. However, I want to record my opposition to building a $10.5 million set of offices for council and the Municipal Services Commission in the area that is subject to flooding for the following reasons. There are a number of more suitable and far less expensive possibilities for relocation. Perhaps the best is building constructed on trust land next to Carrie Downing School, which is currently for sale. It has excellent water and electric facilities, and even if its asking price of 4.1 million were met, it would be a massive saving of money. $10.5 million is an absurd amount for a town with a population of less than 5,500 to spend. We have vital requirements for that money, and chief among them is protecting the town from flooding. Please read my comment and record it in the minutes. Thank you, Darcy Fisk.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Go ahead.
This, well, I didn't have a chance to do the comments. This is good for good for the county. I just wanted to, I just wanted to say, you still can. I just wanted to say, the Newcastle 100 Lions Club in partnership with the Goodwill Fire Company, Saturday, December the 4th, we're having our annual breakfast with Santa Claus, pancake breakfast. So let everybody know, spread the word, and come on out early and celebrate breakfast with Santa Claus. So I just wanted to get that word out.
That's the other thing. Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor with second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.